Hope Mill Theatre is one of the most celebrated theatres and independent theatres in our country. And it is the brainchild of Joseph Houston, who I'm here with today, who is the artistic director and founder, one of the founders, and his partner, William, who is also the executive director. Now, this theatre was set up to try and reach out to the community, but also to provide a platform for existing plays, but for new artists and emerging writers. We absolutely love Hope Mill Theatre at Manchester Theatres. So thank you for taking the time to chat with us today, Joe.
Oh, thank you so much for having us. That was such a lovely introduction. And we love Manchester Theatres as well, because, you're so supportive, and it's great to have, such an amazing theatre outlet and organisation in the city. And yes, I am here, and you can probably see Will working away in the background because it never stops. We're always so busy.
Yeah. So before we get into some of the shows and all of that, I want to know everything. So where did the dream begin, and how have you got from that dream to this incredible venue that you've got now?
Yeah, well, it's been a roller coaster 7.5 years. Myself and Will trained in musical theatre down at drama schools in London. I'm originally from Glasgow, and Will's from Macclesfield, so he's a sort of local boy. And we were working down there in London, and we came up to Manchester really to sort of, start a new part of a journey, new part of life. London obviously is an amazing place, but a very expensive and overwhelming place at times. So we came up to Manchester to be sort of near Will's family. And we just fell in love with the city. I had actually never been to Manchester pre 2015, and Will left home when he was 18, so hadn't really sort of been back for a long time. And the city was just, even back then, it just was bustling with creativity and buzzy, and the different places and venues, and we just spent a month here, and we're just like, wow, what an incredible city. And we were working with, at the time, we actually were working in a burger restaurant, because we transferred up from working as waiters in London, because of course that's what you have to do when you're an out-work actor. You have to work on the side. And we moved up, and we were working with script writers and people that had their own theatre companies, and all of a sudden our eyes were open to this industry outside of London, because when you're in London, it's very London centric. You think that is the be all and end all of theatre, and then suddenly we came up here and we just thought, wow, it's so, it's got a community feel, and it's really accessible, and everyone's really down to earth, and and it just, we fell in love with it, and that sort of is when the seed was planted, when we delved further into what the theatre ecology and the theatre scene was like in Manchester. Compared to its counterpart in London, there actually weren't many venues. Of course, there were a lot of big venues. There were some smaller fringe venues. But when you're in London, that there's such a vast, varied theatre scene, from above pubs to, found spaces, 200-seaters, to, places like the Park Theatre and the Menia, and then all the way up to the West End. And then when we came here, we realised that there really was a bit of a gap. And we just thought, well, could we ever open a theatre? And then the search began, and we were very young and naive, which is probably a good thing, because if we know now what we knew then, I don't know if we would have done it. But we found this incredible building on Gumtree. It was advertised as storage space. It's in this amazing former grade two listed former cotton mill, in a very interesting area, again, having not lived here, that sort of New Islington, Ancoats area, which, again, when you're not from here, back 7 years ago, was interesting, because there wasn't much happening here in this area. But for us, it was this incredible space that we could make a theatre. And all of a sudden, in the space of 7 years, it's a completely different area. There's so much happening, so many new apartments and coffee shops and bakeries. And so really, we didn't realize, but we had found a really key area, and a key area in the city that's so accessible to the city centre. And that was when sort of Hope Mill began.
I love it. Honestly, it's brilliant. And you've obviously since, during that journey, become a charity status as well. So you've got your Factory of Creativity. Is it this that's allowed you to really push out into the community, because you've now got theatre groups, you've got orchestras, playwriting competitions? I mean, you host festivals. Is it that that's enabled you to really reach out even further?
Absolutely. So I think that firstly, in the early days, it was very much just making the venue function, and Will and I were here all the time. We did everything. And then it very much was about the shows and the specifically the musicals that we were building, because that's something that we're very passionate about. And it happened really early on in our journey. We were building these incredible musicals on such a small scale, and they were going off to London and on tour. And then through that, again, going back to that, really realizing that the importance of the area that we were situated in, we've got such an incredible community on our doorstep, because we have this new sort of influx of young professionals and families, that moving to the city and into all these new build apartments. But then right on our doorstep of Mills Platting and Newton Heath and Beswick, you've got all those people that have lived here their whole lives, and the local schools in the area. So all of a sudden we were creating this cultural outlet in a really diverse area. And I think that when we realized that, and people were coming to us from the local area, we realized the importance of further engagement. So yeah, that was a real catalyst for the move into charitable status of going, we want to be able to do more. We want to be able to get into more schools. We want to be able to set up a theatre school in the local area where, kids who probably couldn't afford to access theatre or theatre training can come, and we have funded places. And we take a lot of our production, every production that we produce, we have sort of outreach packs, and we send facilitators into local schools, or the play reading group, where people from the local area come once a month to read a play. That's been running for about 4 years now. Our community choir, which I think has up 35 members from all over the sort of local area. So yeah, that was really the driving force to be able to further that outreach into the community.
Oh, I just love it. I love it. And you've got some amazing patrons as well. So you've got Tracy Bennett, Russell T Davis, Denise Welsh. Have they been able to give you sort of guidance and support? And also, Denise Welsh posted a sneaky little picture on socials yesterday. Are you allowed to tell us anything about what that might be, or is it too soon?
I couldn't, but it's very exciting. And I have to say, all of our patrons have been really supportive since day one, really. I mean, Tracy's performed here in Mame, the musical that we had in 2019, which is, to have someone like Tracy, who's a tour de force in musicals, performing in our little mill was incredible. And she's a constant support. And you may or may not see her returning soon, but I'm not saying anything yet. And the same with Denise. Denise actually started coming as an audience member, as did Russell. They just, whatever those shows that they'd come to see, whether they knew the writer or someone in it, way back in the early days. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh my goodness, Denise Welsh and Russell T Davis just come to our theatre. And then, of course, you start talking and you build up that relationship as it was with both of them. And Denise has just, again, been a constant support, always shouting about us. And that's all you can ask of a patron, is someone that's there to be an ambassador and an advocate for what we do. And, she set us up with lots of amazing people. And most recently, the fabulous writer, Jim Cartwright. So we did have a little fun reading of a play in London that Denise and Matthew Kelly were part of. So again, watch this space. There may be a project happening out of that. And the same with Russell. Russell's a very busy person, but even when he just comes, watches shows, supports, able to email him back and forth about questions or and again, just a constant support. So we're very lucky that we have people like that in the industry that actually just enjoy coming and what we do, and that they're just there to be able to put their name to our venue is an amazing thing.
Yeah, the dream just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And you mentioned, like, obviously a couple of shows there. Now, I can't obviously chat to you without talking about some of the shows. One of my all-time theatre geek nerd moments ever happened at Hope Mill. And because of the intimacy of your venue, it was being able to come and watch Passion with Ruthie Henshaw there. It was incredible, and honestly, I will live off that forever. So, have you had any like big pinch me moments as both sort of a founder of it, but also just as a fan of theatre?
Yeah, I think I have. It's amazing that the talent and the names, musical theatre royalty that want to come and work in our little mill. It's really overwhelming, having started careers in musical theatre, so looking up to people, again, even like Tracy. I remember seeing Tracy Bennett as Judy Garland in the West End when she did End of the Rainbow, that she took over to Broadway. And I was in my second year at Mountview, and I just was in awe. She was incredible. And then, fast forward, sort of 8 years, and she's doing a show in our venue, and she's our patron. And again, Ruthie, a musical theatre royalty, well trained at Lane Theatre Arts, and that's where Ruthie went. So of course she's one of those real, stars that came out of that school. And then, to have her here, but I think as well, a real pinch me moment throughout our time was, we produced Rags the musical back in 2019. Yeah. And Stephen Schwartz actually came over to Manchester, and he was here for about 2 weeks, and he worked on, because we slightly changed. It never, historically, it never did well on Broadway. I think it closed after, less than 10 performances, but it's a beautiful piece. And so Stephen came over, and he'd always wanted to rework bits of it. And he worked with our director and our musical director and rewrote some bits. And, he was in the Hope Mill bar using one of our, I think we bought a piano for £10 on an auction that wasn't even really that tuned that well. And he was there playing our piano and rewriting bits of the show. And I just remember a surreal moment where I was just like, wow, that's the man that wrote Wicked.
Yeah.
And in our bar in Manchester, and he's working on one of our shows, and he did a gala night for us, which was an amazing, where we got a lot of our ex-performers that had worked in our musicals came back and sang songs from his shows. And that was just a real, it was incredible. And we've had lots of those moments of, we always pinch ourselves when we're ever at award ceremonies, or when people speak of Hope Mill Theatre and like in the industry. And it is really it's really heartening, because sometimes it's hard to see the wood for the trees when you're in the thick of it. So when you have those moments of, wow, like that's incredible. You can see the Stephen Schwartz poster just behind me. There's been lots of those moments over the years.
Yeah. And you've got another one coming up, opening this week with Animal, obviously that won your own Hope Through the Mill script writing competition. And I actually spoke to its writer John yesterday, so I know quite a bit about the play, and I'm really excited to come and watch it. Is that something, because it's like a homegrown production and it's a home thing, does that make it extra special for you?
Yeah, absolutely. We're so passionate about new writing. I think it's really important for the industry that we support emerging, composers, musical theatre writers, playwrights. And, even when we launched Through the Mill, and it was mentored, Jonathan Harvey actually was part of that process. So he read the 12 final plays that were chosen. We had over 700 submissions, which is incredible, from all across the UK. And we whittled it down to 12, and Jonathan read all 12 of the plays, and then had one-to-one feedback with all of the writers, which in itself is just, so valuable. And I know that everyone was so grateful for that. But yes, Animal by John Bradfield just kept coming out on top. It's a beautiful, heartfelt, funny. It's so funny. It's such a funny piece. And again, we have an amazing LGBTQ plus audience here at Hope Mill that we've built up over the years. So to be able to tell a story that is so it's new, and it's a story that I don't think people would ever have considered, like, a disabled person within the gay community, and what it's like navigating that as a disabled person, the trials and tribulations. But it's written in such a way that it's like a rom-com. It's so funny and heartfelt. And it's been amazing to take that show and nurture that over the past couple of years, and then to work together with the Park Theatre in London, who we have co-produced Rose with Maureen Lipman last year with them. So we've got a great relationship with the Park. But to be able to come together with them and run it here, premiere it in Manchester, and then take it to London, as a new piece of writing, it's just, it's really amazing.
Yeah, and it just, like you say, it sounds like it's just going to open people's eyes. Because it isn't the kind of story that would necessarily normally be told, but that is exactly why it's going to be brilliant, because that's what you need. It's groundbreaking. It's great, and that's exactly what you kind of set out to do, isn't it? To be able to offer these opportunities to writers, and I cannot wait. And that's I just want to give it a plug. So that is from the 9th of March to the 2nd of April. Go along and watch it. So what other opportunities or shows or things can you tell us about that might be coming up over the next 6 months to the next year, or anything like that? Anything we've kind of not covered?
Well, we, as well as producing our own in-house productions, which tends to be about half of the year, we also receive a lot of work. So April, May, June for us, and July, we have a real variety of work from grassroots Manchester theatre companies. We have the return of Her Productions, which is a Manchester-based theatre company, and they're coming back with their all-female Shakespeare, which I think it's their 4th year, and they're bringing back King Lear, and that always goes down a storm and people love it. And also they're bringing vignettes, which is a lot of short pieces by known and unknown writers. So there's a few Corrie, Emmerdale, Hollyoaks writers in there that write short pieces. That's running here as well. We've got the City of Manchester Opera coming. We've got some touring work as well. We've got Jason Manford's Comedy Club coming for a night. We're also, last year we launched Hope Mill Amateur Dramatics Company. Again, we're really passionate about getting young people into musical theatre and providing opportunities for musical theatre performing in the city. So we launched it last year with Legally Blonde, which was great fun. I actually directed that myself, and it completely sold out for 2 weeks. And this year I'm directing Grease with our amateur dramatics company. So that opens in 3 weeks' time and runs in the first mid-April. So that's a lot of fun as well. We've not announced our programme towards the end of the year, but we will be very soon. And I think that what I can say is that we'll be ending the year with 2 big musicals that we'll be producing in-house. And I think they're very different, but I think they'll be very, very exciting, especially for all of your Manchester theatre crowd.
Oh, watch this space, everybody. So just to finish then, anybody who might want to get involved in the community projects or the AmJam, do they just go along to your website, find the information?
Absolutely. hopemilltheatre.co.uk. If you go there, there's actually a page which is all about our community outreach. So if you go on there, you can see how to join the choir, the orchestra. We launched the theatre school 2 years ago, and we've now filled our Saturday school, so we can't take any more students. And we were lucky enough to receive the Andrew Lloyd Webber Foundation funding to open a second school. So we're about to launch a Sunday school as well in the next couple of months, which is already filling up, which is amazing. So if you go on there, there'll be places still available for a Sunday school. And like I say, there are funded places there available as well. So don't feel like you can't go on there and send us an email. And same with our play reading group that meets monthly. All the details are on there as well.
Thank you. It is so spectacular what you are doing at Hope Mill. And I could actually just go and get a brew and sit and chat theatre with you like for another few hours. So thank you so much. We offer our extended support to you from Manchester Theatres. You're just going to go from success to success. We cannot wait for Animal and everything else that you've said that's coming up. So thank you so much for chatting with us today. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you.